mere half dozen, perhaps, to win. At this moment, I'm inclined to think you're not one of them.
Subscribers and members of our listening audience.
Welcome to F1Weekly.com. My name is Clark Rogers. I'm the host of the program. I'll be joined by Steve Falk, my co-host. Nasir Hamid will be bringing us Motorsports Mondial as usual. This is podcast number 300, August 28th, 2008. Stephen?
This F1Weekly Podcast brought to you by Yahoo Ads. Yahoo Ads get you the F1Weekly.com website for the ads that interest you. From used cars to new cars, Yahoo Ads get you the stuff you really want. Click on them, you know you want to.
Thank you, Stephen. And of course, we always thank Yahoo Ads. Real quickly, I want to mention that this is also being videocast and will be brought to you on YouTube, sponsored by Lipton Tea. Sippin' good. So there you have it, and we're going to have, on today's program, Massa, is he number one? Quick Nick gets a warning. Kaz says he's very, very sorry. Valencia, Formula boring. And of course, we have an AJ Foyt interview, only available on the podcast. Check it out when you go to the F1Weekly.com website. And of course, Motorsports Mondial with the king of Karachi himself, Mr. Nasir Hamid. First of all, gentlemen, welcome to the F1Weekly.com video studios. Stephen, Nasir, how are you guys today?
Great. How about yourself, Mr. Rogers?
I'm absolutely outstanding. Nas, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Greetings and video regards to all the listeners, and I would like to thank them for their continued support.
Of course, and that's why we're doing this special 300th podcast, somewhat of an anniversary, a lot of work. But we thought we'd bring you a video of how ridiculous we really look when we're doing the podcasts. So there you go, punishment for you and a few laughs for us. But let's get right to it. Let's talk about Valencia. Some people thought it was boring. Luckily for us, we had David Coulthard hitting people, at least one person. And of course, the big story for me was qualifying and Renault not making it out of Q2. So let's quickly go to Steve Falk, my co-host. Steve, your thoughts on qualifying and the failure of Flavio to lead the French team to Q3.
It was an interesting qualification, brand new track, long track. Seemed that everybody's having a bit of trouble. It was interesting that both Renaults got out of Q1, but couldn't get out of Q2. Which really kind of surprised me because when both Nelsinho and Fernando were able to clear the first qualification, I seriously expected at least one of the two of them to get into Q3. But for some reason, they just couldn't find any pace in that second session. Nelsinho, 2 tenths behind Timo Glock or Mark Webber in his Red Bull. And then Fernando couldn't even outrun Nakajima, which may have boded ill for him later on in the race. Quick recap of quali, because we did not do our typical race recap this weekend, so we're going to do a quick recap of that, and we'll do quali as we have been. Out in the first round, the usual suspects of Adrian Sutil, Rubens Barrichello, Giancarlo Fisichella, David Coulthard, and Jenson Button. Coulthard's been having a lot of trouble getting out of that first session lately. In the second session, out are Piquet, Webber, Glock, Alonso, and Nakajima. Both STRs made it to the final session, which was a little bit surprising for some reason.
And let's not forget that the story of the weekend, when we look at the practices, the qualifying, and the race, was really Sebastian Vettel. He did outstanding. And really, the Ferrari-powered cars, including Forza India, Adrian Sutil's, were all the fastest cars through the speed trap. And Renault's got to do some homework here. I don't care if they start cheating, but something has to be done. Nas, you've got any thoughts about this?
I have a question.
questions.
Why is Ferrari running one car in qualifying, if you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I don't know what's going on with Ferrari.
It's pathetic.
It is pathetic, but we'll talk about that later on. Go ahead and give us the rest of the news.
And now into the final session, we Felipe Massa gets his 4th pole, 5th if you're Felipe Massa. Lewis Hamilton gets P2, Robert Kubica, Kimi Räikkönen, Heikki Kovalainen, Sebastian Vettel, Jarno Trulli, Nick Heidfeld, Nico Rosberg, and Sebastian Bourdais. Big surprise with the 2 SDRs. You know, I'm sure that the SDRs went with one light car and one heavy car. Sebastian Bourdais drawing that short straw.
Yeah.
But still, for the SDR to outqualify both Toyotas, and you know, at least Nick got into the final qualifying session for the first time in quite some time.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Nick later on, but still, very disappointing qualifying for myself. Watching 2 Toro Rossos, one driven by, you know, our wonderful friend from France, Sebastian Bourdais, and of course Vettel doing an outstanding job. Obviously the driver for RBR next year, and I believe he may be bumped up into service later on this season. Maybe telling David Coulthard early retirement could be a good retirement for you, David.
Well, if nothing else, the mechanics are going to have some say in that he keeps wrecking the car at every race.
Well, he's just got a problem with some of those Force India cars occasionally. At least it wasn't his own teammate this time.
Yeah,
but nevertheless, very disappointing for myself and, of course, for Flavio. And no bravos this weekend for me. Not even a couple of shabashes.
Well, maybe for the Force India drivers.
Yeah, sure. Maybe for Force India, but not even that. I'm going to have to come up with a Toro Rosso. Maybe something in German. How do you say bravo in German?
I don't know. The only thing I know in German is Gesundheit, which they don't
Gesundheit?
have these days.
Really? I know Raust and Schumacher.
There you go.
Exactly. Anyway, so let's go to the race now that I'm super disappointed. And this is one of the reasons why Fernando Alonso doesn't like being in mid-pack, because somebody can hit you.
Yeah, and it often happens in the first or second lap. Poor Kaz manages to get up behind him at one point in the track, and something I haven't seen in a while. He just knocked his rear wing clean off.
Well, Kaz Nakajima has been having a decent season, but it was just a bad start on him because Fernando had people in front of him, and it was basically a racing incident. He was sorry about it. But let's briefly talk about the Valencia track. You know, this has been really hyped up.
Well, it's a beautiful track.
It's a beautiful track.
Venue.
Some people whined about it because some of the camera angles were a little industrial, they said. But I thought it was pretty nice. The width was good.
You've got it on a waterfront, you know. You get the beach on one side, you get the warehouses on the other.
And it was continuously mentioned during the broadcast that it reminded them of Long Beach in the 80s.
Very true.
Very true.
Well, I saw the practice on Friday morning, and when I saw that blue sea, Mediterranean, and cruise ships there.
The tears?
Yeah. No, not the tears. Wow, this is pretty impressive.
It looked good.
And this, I think, is the future of Formula One. You know, motor racing started with round the houses races and street races in Europe, and now they have Abu Dhabi coming, Singapore, and that bridge, crossing the bridge was way too cool.
It was way too cool, but I think the good weather is going to hamper the excitement of the race, and I think next year it should be scheduled during the rainy season, maybe the monsoon season. We've got to get some excitement at this track.
Well, maybe put it up in the spring instead of the late summer, and maybe get some spring rains. There was a couple points there where we thought we were going to get rain,
I was hoping,
but it never really materialized. We had a couple of drops on the cameras during quali, and everybody's like, oh rain! But it was really almost on only one end of the track, and never really played into anything that went on.
Exactly.
They've changed the name already for next year.
Mediterranean Grand Prix.
Yes,
How fashionable.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the couscous will be half price.
Oh,
Does that mean they can charge like another $15 a ticket?
Well, probably, I don't know. But by lap 3, Hamilton was setting fast lap. He was pretty excited. But you know, Massa does another outstanding job, and he started knocking down the fast laps at this beginning of this race.
Well, the first half up until the first pit stop, they were pretty much trading fast laps back and forth the entire time.
But eventually, Massa owned the fast lap and ended with the fast lap on this race.
Yeah, and ends up with the hat trick, as they say.
And I'm no Felipe Massa fan by any stretch of the imagination, but he certainly did an outstanding job.